Breaststroke and butterfly turns, a lot of times the swimmers will come in and they know that they're going to be on a little bit of an off stroke. They're not going to hit the wall perfectly. They just can feel it. They've got it in their mind. They've got a feel for where they are. And so they've got to find a way to adjust. I always say this, you want to make sure on butterfly that you adjust on this, right at the flags, just before you hit the flags, you've got to make your adjustment by either one of three things. Either finishing the stroke a little longer, adding a little more power, or reducing a little more power on that stroke, but keep the complete stroke, okay? Or maybe going without a breath on that last stroke so you can hit the wall on a long arm. It's really important that you have a plan for when that occurs, and you've got to practice that in practice, and you've got to rehearse it. So when you come to the flags, you can't change your stroke up. In particular for relays, you can't change your stroke up on the last 2 or 3 strokes to the wall, because your swimmer who's standing on the blocks is counting on your stroke to look identical on the last 3 strokes to the wall. So if it's a little longer, that's not going to bother him. If it's a little bit more power, that's not going to bother him. If you take off a little bit more power, just so that you don't get as much distance per stroke on that stroke, that's not going to bother the relay exchange. And that's not going to bother your turn. But you've got to make sure that you know what you're doing and you've got a plan, and the plan has to occur before you hit the flags. Coming under the flags, the decision has to have already been made, okay? So we're going to ask Keanu to start down the pool, and we're just going to let whatever happens, happens. If he hits it on a long arm, great. If he has to make an adjustment, then he'll make an adjustment. So one of the things I think is that errors are made and mistakes are made off of the previous wall. So if they didn't glide enough, if they didn't do a good enough job on their pullout, if they didn't do a good enough job on their breakout, or they took their breakout at too high of an angle, any of those things can influence what happens when you come to the wall.